audio. And all right, we've got about less than 30 seconds before we go live on at least on the streaming portion of the show. So, all right, it should, and we can take anything out of order. I only did the first two videos. I didn't do the other. I think I had one more video on there. I didn't get a chance to get that one done. So,
I just want to know if you took the ride last week.
If I took the what?
Took the ride.
Did you feel the glove?
Oh, the ride. Yeah. I thought you said riot, and I'm thinking, did I go to Minneapolis with Randy? Did I, but yeah. Oh, yeah. Travis and I both took the ride, and we're going to make announcements on that and find out who the winners are. I think at the end of February. I think is what the plan is. And but the upside is that as it stands right now, and I don't, Jeff and I haven't really talked, but I don't suspect it's going to change. It's going to be when people do donations to the Wounded Balloon, there's supposed to be a landing page on there now. They just do it in the name of myself or Travis, and whoever ended up lasting the longest. And they had a timer there, so they're going to analyze everything. Whoever lasts the longest will get a pair of the gloves they can donate to an agency. And then whoever sponsors that person and donates the most money in that person's name gets a pair of gloves they can donate to an agency as well. And if you're still active, there's a chance that you would be able to carry the gloves working for your agency. So I'm excited. And let me tell you, I already respected the glove, but I have a whole new appreciation for the glove. Wow. Yeah. And I know that Jeff Nicholas is dealing with the ice and stuff where he's at. So with the storm and stuff. So can you guys hear me okay? All right. Excellent. All right. So I see, I'm just checking the stream here, and let's see, we got Sergeant George we got people on StreamYard. That looks like it's working. I'm going to pop over here to Rumble real quick and make sure that we've got our Rumble feed working. And that's looking like it is. We've already got MVS over there already in Northwest Colorado, where it's negative 14 degrees, and then chilly in Northwest Pennsylvania. So thanks for watching the show, guys. Speaking of Colorado, Chief Schultz, what's the temperature like over there?
Well, it's sunny, and it's supposed to get up to 25, which is a 25-degree difference from what it was yesterday morning. We got about 6 inches of snow on the ground, but it's just we finally got winter here in southern Colorado. It's been unseasonably warm, so we need the moisture. Happy to have the freeze to get rid of some of the bugs and whatnot. So it's a relatively mild day. I might even be able to sit on the deck today.
And Jeff, when you're in Ohio?
Oh, it's cold. We run the risk of having school canceled all week because of the frigid temperatures, and we're getting snow on top of that.
You say cold, what are we talking?
Below zero and 20 to 30 below with wind chill.
Oh, that was my next question. Is there any wind going on with that? So there is. Okay.
Yeah.
And Jeff, Nicholas, where are you at, and how cold is it over there?
Lexington, Kentucky, currently at 13 degrees. It's going to be -1 tonight. We're iced in, and then that's not counting the wind chill. And I've got a weather station outside, and my weather vane is frozen up.
No way.
We got
wow.
I mean, it makes for a pretty picture with all the ice on the trees, but there's going to be a lot of limb snap. I've got some in my yard already.
Wow. Well, it's I think it's in the 60s right now in Tampa, but it's going to go down to, they think, 32 degrees this evening. Yeah. So I've got my thermal on. I'm ready. Let's brave this cold weather.
So, Lieutenant, has your power been out?
My power hasn't gone out, no. But I also have a Generac generator, so I can power my entire home if it does.
Me too.
Well, COVID ruined snow days for kids today. They just go online, which is tragic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'll bet the two Jeffs for the Generacs, I bet your neighbors hate you because, all the people without power, they're driving through. You probably have your outdoor lights on, a pathway all the way up to the front door. Come on.
Sometimes, well, first of all, my neighbors are glad we have it because they know where they can come when their power goes out. And I lent one of my generators to my neighbor in case. And then otherwise, we keep that kind of, there's no lights. You wouldn't even know we had one running. Just keep it clandestine,
Yeah, and it actually works. Where I live, a lot of people have them because,
Yeah.
believe it or not, I realize it's 2026, but our power lines are all above ground, and it doesn't take much. You get heavy snow, get ice, high winds, the power's out, and it goes out, probably a dozen times a year.
Yeah.
Does it make you miss Southern California?
Oh, let me tell you, I need a frontal lobotomy is what I need.
It's all well and good until the earthquake hits.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Ohio's great.
Everything west of the I-5 corridor is like, what happened to it?
Yeah. Ohio's great 8 months out of the year, but these 4 months in the winter that I can do without.
Yeah. Well, I feel for you guys. I feel the pain. So. And looking at the stream, we got guys that are waking up.
Hey, Chip, you got your.
Did you say we have Arthur Johnson, 29 degrees in Richmond, Virginia? Did I get what, Chief?
I'm just making sure that you got your Leo clock reset after having to go manual in Las Vegas.
I did. That's not a fun process. It's kind of archaic, the interface you have to use, but yeah, I got it reset. So, all right, we're about 10 seconds out, guys. Showtime. I'm starting the music. Jeff Nicholas's favorite song. Here we go.
Oh, really?
All right, guys, and welcome to Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com. My name is Chip the Block, and I'm your host, and we're a group of law enforcement professionals that talk about today's news and issues, but we do it from a law enforcement perspective. And let me introduce the crew. Guys, if you don't mind waiting for the video portion of our show, we've got Dr. Joel Schultz, retired police chief. You can also reach him at schultzco@gmail.com. Thanks very much for being back on the show, Doctor. Also, Lieutenant Jeff Winninger, retired commander from the LAPD and retired as a lieutenant, now relocating to Ohio. He is rethinking that one right now. And we've also got Jeff Nicholas. He is the CEO of CompliantTechnologies.com. And of course, my favorite product they have is called the glove. And after being at SHOT Show and getting gloved, I'm even a bigger fan now. So thanks, Gemma, for being on the show. Hey, shout out to our sponsors. Our title sponsor, Gulls at Gulls.com, and Jeff's company, CompliantTechnologies.com. They are our satellite sponsor. Thanks to them, we've been on satellite radio since May the 5th, Cinco de Mayo. Also, AeroPrecisionUSA.com, our arm sponsor. We have GunLearn.com, MyMedicare.live, SafeguardRecruiting.com, and they're our streaming sponsor. Thanks to them, we're streaming to over 1 million people right now during the live show. And twobells.com, they built their new online store at LeoRoundtable.com. And finally, FishOrlandoBass.com. Zach has got a bass fishing charter in the Orlando area. So next time you're going to Disney, drop the wife and the kids off with the grandkids, hook up with Zach and do that bass fishing charter. Or if you're feeling more adventurous, do the alligator hunting. You can catch and relocate the wild Florida alligator. FishOrlandoBass.com. A shout out to Brian Burns for the Tampa Free Press at TampaFP.com. Thanks for carrying our content, Brian. Also, Ray Dietrich with formerlawman.com. And finally, our own Travis Shades with lawofficer.com. Thanks to all those entities for helping make the show happen. And now, what in the world are we going to be talking about today, guys? We are jumping into it with Minneapolis. We've been doing a live show at a SHOT Show last week, and we've got some catching up to do. And we've also got a Portland article that was written by our very own Dr. Schultz that we want to touch on. We got a jury reaches a verdict in the trial of an ex-Uvalde school police officer who he was accused of failing to confront the gunman, but they cleared this guy, and so we're gonna talk about that. We got a dash of body cam footage shows a Marina police officer being dragged before fatally shooting the bad guy. That was in Marina, California. We've got Greenville Sheriff's Office determines a deadly deputy shooting of a knife-wielding suspect was justified, and we got a sheriff's deputy pulled over. This sheriff's deputy is pulled over by a police officer and let go when he finds out he's a cop in a undercover car. And then 15 minutes later, the deputy returns the favor to the police officer, and now he's in the grease. He's in some serious grease over that. Let me just say, before we start talking about Minneapolis and all the stuff going on, and you guys can open up your mics. I'm back from SHOT Show, where we were doing live shows Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And other than a glitch with the way I programmed the radio clock, I should have left it on Eastern time. I changed it to Pacific time, but I never reprogrammed it. So yeah, it's going off. We're doing the show at 12. Well, actually, we're doing the show at 9 o'clock in the morning there, which is 12 noon on the East Coast. So yeah, my clock wasn't working correctly because at 9 o'clock in the morning, the clock thinks it has 3 more hours before we're doing the show, and it's not doing its thing. So I had to go manual mode for that one. But we had a pretty good show. We had some interesting characters that were walking by and that joined the show as well. I know that Chief Schultz, you were on the show the first 2 days, I think, Tuesday and Wednesday, right?
Yeah, and I tell you, being live with you and the other guests was it was a thrill. I really enjoyed that. That was the only redeeming factor about being in Las Vegas this last week. It was a lot of fun, almost worth it.
Now you did get hooked up with some VIP stuff too, I believe.
I got a backpack one time.
Yeah, but we were on a roof. We were on a rooftop. We were eating. We had live entertainment, and we were all freezing. We didn't know it was going to be outside.
Yeah, but you guys know all the high rollers. I didn't know anybody. I was just a fly on the wall there, a cold fly on the wall.
It was all good. So we'll find out exactly how well we did. It's going there to get more sponsors so that we can do more things on the show and grow. So we'll find out. We made a lot of great contacts. Things went very, very well for us. So we'll find out this week and in the coming weeks, how well we did. But a lot of great new connections and stuff. So very excited about the possibility. So if you guys are ready, did you have anything you want to add, Jeff Nicholas, or?
No, I'm just glad to be here, brother.
Oh, all right, brother. We're glad to have you. All right. So look, let's jump into, Minneapolis. There's so many things have gone on. If you guys don't mind, I'm just going to kind of run through the headlines to kind of catch us up. Some of the stuff that started just before, we went to SHOT Show. And matter of fact, Randy Sutton ended up leaving before we got there. And we didn't even think we were going to be able to see him, but he actually left, I think, on Friday or Saturday to go to Minneapolis and, to give support for the people there. And I was joking, saying he was going there to help the Minneapolis cops. And my joke was that, well, they're just locked in a room inside Minneapolis Police Headquarters. So I don't think there's much support to give them, except for maybe the ICE agents that are wearing both hats, but yeah, a lot going on. But this had already started. So the sources are RVM News, NewYorkPost.com, Infowars, WSJ.com, TheLibertyDaily.com, LawOfficer.com, and Newsbreak.com. So Minneapolis thug draws pistol on Border Patrol agents, gets dropped like a bad habit. And that's from RVM News, which is Red Voice Media. And it starts off a shooting involving federal law enforcement officers reportedly occurred on Saturday in Minneapolis. Just over the weekend and it gives the intersection location according to law enforcement sources by Fox. But they said that it was, and I initially thought it was ICE, but it was Border Patrol agents. And then we got Border Patrol's Greg Bavino confirms dead suspect was armed and violent, takes questions from reporters. And then a question, did the weapon carried by Alex Preddy, our dead bad guy, accidentally discharged? She had that SIG 320, which is why they're raising that question. Minneapolis mayor issues an ultimatum to Trump in the wake of the latest shooting. Trump responds, and then we got a chaotic moment. Federal officer reaches for a gun, revealed in close-up analysis of Minneapolis armed anti-ICE protester shooting. So they've done. There are a couple of articles where they've done freeze frames of when the bad guy had the gun, at different points of this incident that went down. And another breaking exclusive, see video analysis proof that the latest ICE shooting of the armed agitator Alex Preddy in Minnesota today was 100% justified. Then we got what we know so far about Alex Preddy. Anti-ICE rioters barricading entire blocks in Minneapolis as police appear to be MIA. And of course, they're talking about the local police. Anti-ICE rider bites federal officer's finger off during a Minneapolis chaos, and that Homeland Security Investigations officer had part of his finger bitten off by riders in Minneapolis after the Border Patrol agent fatally shot a guy on Saturday. And then we've got another story about 100 Minneapolis police officers applied for new paid leave program. And I'm thinking in the middle of all this, when they're short on manpower, we've got around 100 Minneapolis police officers could soon be off duty for weeks to months. From an already critically understaffed police department. And apparently this is something that the governor, Tim Walz, had arranged for officers to be able to do. And then local police in Minnesota being used as political pawns, according to an ex-lieutenant which happens to be our very own Randy Sutton. An utterly despicable anti-ICE mob storms the St. Paul Church. It shuts down the service. The DOJ is pursuing criminal charges still against Don Lemon. And then they've got an article about how much trouble is Don Lemon in. And then more than 100 ICE protesters arrested after shutting down the Minneapolis airport. We have a leaked ICE memo. These next two just came out. A leaked ICE memo reveals broader effort of Trump's immigration regime. They're being critical over Trump wanting to get not just the worst of the worst, but all the illegals. But of course, when they're if you get caught up in the net, they're not letting people go that are illegal, even though they're not violent offenders. Police nationwide reportedly fed up with ICE's chaotic operations. And here's a quote saying, "It pains me," that's written by a guy named Alexander Willis. And I call BS on that one. Cops nationwide fed up with ICE's chaotic operations. I have to call BS on that. So there you go. We've got a little less than 2 minutes before we take our first commercial break. And we've got a couple open mics. So Jeff Nicholas, you want to start us off on this one?
You know what? I'm going to let Dr. Chief Schultz start. I've got a comment, but he's got a little bit more background on this than I do.
All right, Dr. Schultz.
Well, I'm going to say one thing. The legal analysis of the officer involved in the Preddy shooting, that is, what did he know? What did he reasonably believe at the time that he made the decision within the circumstances at the moment? And was that justified? Now, the political ramifications and the tactical questions and all of that stuff is a greater part of the debate. But as far as the moment those triggers were pulled, that just goes down to the basic law of use of force and deadly force. Was it reasonable? Not even right, but reasonable. And, what did that officer reasonably perceive? So all these other tangent issues deserve discussion. But as far as the legal ramifications for that particular officer, it's really a pretty simple premise. It's just a matter of finding the science within the investigative process to determine what happened. And the videos tell you very little.
Perfect timing, Doctor. So time for first commercial break, guys. Stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, guys, it's time to talk about our title sponsor, Galls at galls.com. And, as police officers, we know we can get our gear from a lot of different places, and that's one of the things we do great, right? We like to buy gear. But when you throw the online mix, the choices are almost limitless. So I want to remind everybody here about what's really important is supporting the companies that actually support law enforcement. And I don't know if a company does that better than Galls at galls.com. Even their motto is proud to serve those who serve, which, of course, they do in spectacular fashion. And not only that, they walk the talk by supporting dozens of focused organizations like this radio show. So when you're looking for gear, please support our title sponsor by going to Galls at galls.com. And they're going to do you one better. For the loyal listeners of the show, they've got a radio code in order to get 15% off most of your next purchases. It works almost on every item that you're going to purchase at galls.com. It's radio 15. So type in radio 15 in order to get 15% off your next purchase at galls.com. And they have gift cards. Hook up your family, friends, and loved ones for the new Galls gift card, and they will be your new best friends. Again, that is all at galls.com. And now it's time to talk about Compliant Technologies at complianttechnologies.com. And, they're committed to providing non-lethal solutions to help officers gain the upper hand safely and rapidly in a humane, low-optics manner, utilizing what they call their CD3, which stands for Conductor Distraction De-Escalation Technology. And their flagship product, we all know by now, is called the Glove, has helped officers not just tens of thousands of times. I think there are over 250,000 applications now. And guess what? They've had no injuries. And you heard that correctly. I said no injuries. The Glove has actually achieved non-lethal status in an arena that predominantly can only offer less lethal results. And when it comes to weapons retention, transitioning to a sidearm or conducted energy weapon, the Glove at complianttechnologies.com, they have virtually eliminated weapons confusion. So stay ahead of the game with Compliant Technologies and their revolutionary CD3 that hundreds of agencies have already turned to nationwide. And friends, take it from me, when it comes to safety, this is one of the most common sense hands-on solutions that's ever come along. So go to complianttechnologies.com today and tell them that Chip sent you. Again, that is complianttechnologies.com. And we got 2 minutes before we come back to the radio portion of the show. All right. And hey, I definitely want to get into, we had a guy with his finger bit off, but I want to talk about application with the Glove in this at some point too.
Can we go back, when you come back on, can we talk about I just have a comment about the whole general atmosphere. But I've got a question for y'all. When you signed in to become an officer, did you swear to defend the Constitution? Is that part of your oath?
Absolutely.
That's what I thought, right? And so it's no different right now because we're at war internally. I don't think an officer, when the truth comes out about being told to stand down or to interrupt ICE or anything like that, they're not going to have the Auschwitz guards excuses of, I was just doing what I was told. You're either going to support and defend the Constitution or you're not. And this is going to go down to many levels. And I find it very sad that our law enforcement is not supporting. You have AGs telling citizens that ICE is not law enforcement. That's inciting insurrection and violence, as far as I'm concerned, with what's going on with the narrative from these so-called elected leaders. And I understand that, you know, I know we've got to be careful, or maybe I should be more careful. I'm a CEO trying to put product out there, but just like I told you before, Chip, our country is first. It doesn't matter about all this other stuff. If we don't have a nation, what's the sense of doing anything to try to better society?
All right, perfect timing. All right, guys, headed back to radio. I'll see you in 10. Here we go. All right, guys, and welcome back to Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip DeBlock, and I'm your host. We're joined by Dr. Joel Schultz, retired police chief, former LAPD commander, Lieutenant Jeff Winninger, and also Jeff Nicholas, CEO of Compliant Technologies with the Glove. So thanks for being on, gentlemen. We've been talking about bringing everybody up to speed on what's been going down in Minneapolis. And I know that Dr. Schultz was talking before the commercial break, so I didn't know if you finished, Dr. Schultz. I know that Jeff Nicholas was waiting to weigh in as well. So, gentlemen, whoever wants to pop in here first. So I think the chief is done. Jeff Nicholas.
Yeah, I just wanted to refer back to that great philosopher, Forrest Gump. Stupid is as stupid does, right? And when you see a lot of these things that are occurring on our streets, yeah, it's ugly. It's unfortunate that a guy got shot, but when you show up without your ID, you have a concealed carry, or you have weapons that are in the vicinity of social unrest. It's not looking good. You're not doing yourself any favor by doing that. But also the rhetoric of trying to blame the ICE officers for doing a job. What American would not want our country rid of people who are legal, who are violent offenders, who have done all kind of atrocious things? Why would you be so hell-bent on keeping them in the country? That's not patriotic. And I find it very interesting that we as a country are governed by the Constitution, and we have people, elected or otherwise, are trying to go against what our constitutional values are. And I don't think the American people are buying it. And that may not bode well. I'm speaking as a retired Army officer and aviator and private citizen, and not the CEO of Compliant Technologies. We have to have our country back, and we need the rule of law now.
You know, we have people agreeing with you, Jeff. We've got Sile Kinney and some other Linda Travel Trot, all these guys. So they're agreeing with you as well. You know, I know that. What I find, well, let me go in a couple different ways. Number one, when Randy Sutton got back from Minneapolis, and he arrived back in Vegas, and we hooked up, you know, during SHOT Show, the cops, he said, are just demoralized. You know, they're not being allowed to do what they want to do, and they had to supply support for it. I'm talking about the Minneapolis cops, not the ICE officers, who really arguably have it worse because they're having to wear both hats, or having to do the local law enforcement job, you know, and the ICE thing. But Randy said they're demoralized. I know that even where I'm at in Tampa, where we've hosted Super Bowls and the RNC, the DNCs, and all this stuff, you know, if Minneapolis was really serious about wanting to protect the citizens and stuff, they would enact a curfew, which they're not, and enforce it. They would have restrictions, which can be passed at a city council level, on wearing face coverings and stuff to hide your identity and stuff, which they're not doing. So there's so many easy things that could be done, and they're just, in my opinion, sabotaging the feds that are trying to carry out the wishes of the majority of the country that elected Donald Trump in the office to do exactly what he's doing.
You know, one thing that we're not really talking about is, and I think it's really important, if you gentlemen notice that the IACP, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, they penned a letter requesting that the federal, state, and local law enforcement sit down to navigate a path forward. The reality is, I think we're at circumstances where two things can be true. And I think there's plenty of criticism that can be passed around. And actually, if we're going to be objective about it, we need to accept the fact that there's a better way of doing things, regardless of where you stand politically or what your ideology is from a political standpoint. You know, I can speak just from my experience. I have a great deal of experience investigating, adjudicated over 700 officer-involved shooting cases. I was highly trained and tactical expert, working Metropolitan Division with the LAPD, training LAPD officers in immediate action rapid deployment for active shooter scenes, as well as an expert in crowd control and management. And to be honest, I'm seeing significant deviations of best practices. And that's not that I want to castigate any ill will to the ICE agents or the border patrol agents, but at the end of the day, there's a better way, and we really need to collectively get together. And it's about communicating, and we need to start communicating where we are listening to understand rather than listening to try to form a response. And because, you know, it's all about trust, and the community has to have trust of law enforcement. And I don't think anyone can argue that the way the narrative has been managed by the federal government, as well as the state officials in Minneapolis. Listen, you know, what they said occurred with this gentleman, it didn't occur. And you're going to lose credibility. And, you know, he was exercising his First Amendment right. Yeah. He's exercising his Second Amendment right. And, you know, the reality is NRA is going to be up in arms, you know, because you absolutely have the legal right to have a gun at a demonstration. Now, I don't know what happened there. I'm not going to speak at all to whether the officer-involved shooting was appropriate or not, because I don't know all the facts. You have to conduct an investigation, but it doesn't serve us well when the state is being blocked out of that. I've worked cooperatively with many federal agencies.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on many.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. I was getting ready to jump in too. Oh.
Yeah, Jeff, you got to understand. I understand best practices, but you have the state government and the mayor inciting the violence, telling people, ICE, leave if you want peace. They should be telling people to stand down, let them do their job. They have targeted enforcement. They're not willy-nilly picking everybody up. They are the ones inciting the violence. Best practices, listen, when you're in the middle of a combat situation, we always had a saying, the plan is only the foundation for the change. Brother, I'm telling you, this is organized chaos on their part because of the fact that it takes away from the whole fraud visibility and everything else they're trying to distract. And they know that when they keep illegal aliens in this country, that is their voting base, and that's what they're banking on. You've got to take in, what is the reason why a governor of a state and a mayor of a major metropolitan area would tell people to go out and incite violence against ICE? You've got to start taking the whole proper protocol out of the conversation.
What I can say in this instance, I did not see one iota of violence by this gentleman. I didn't see it.
It's
all right, guys. We're doing our second break. Stick with us. It's going to get real. We'll be right back. All right, guys, introducing Aero Defense by Aero Precision at aeroprecisionusa.com, a beacon of durability, dependability, and all-American craftsmanship in the realm of duty rifles. And yes, we're talking about long guns. They're born from an aerospace engineering company, so you know these guys know what they're doing. And Aero Defense by Aero Precision demands perfection because settling for anything less is not an option when your life is on the line. You can visit aeroprecisionusa.com for a lineup that matches every discipline because they basically have something for everybody. And you know, back since 1994, they've been quietly leading the AR builder parts domain, but now they're making waves in the complete rifle arena with Solus bolt actions. And that's not all. Their M4 E1 Pro and the Mod 4 handguards, they already hit the market at aeroprecisionusa.com, the embodiments of duty rifle excellence, but now they're being tailored for the civilian customer. And that means that now you guys can start getting your hands on the primo stuff and their M5 AR 308 platform, nothing short of spectacular. So don't settle for less when you can have the best. Head over to aeroprecisionusa.com. Again, aeroprecisionusa.com. And we got 4 minutes, guys, before we come back to the radio portion of the show. And give me 1 second here. We got a banner that I got up. All right. Well, you know, we're getting a lot of interaction from like Sharon Caudell and all these people. So they like what we're saying. So I love it. And
no, I don't want to conflate the issues, because the reality is we can have two things that are true. I'm not sitting here standing up for the politicians in Minneapolis and in Minnesota. That's not what I'm doing. But what I'm standing up for.
You want to save it for radio, or?
Well, we can. But I mean,
we can always revisit it. Just bring it up again.
Yeah. I mean, I can go in greater detail, but I'm going off of my experience. You know, I mean, listen, I've policed and been in charge of the troops facing tens of thousands of demonstrators. You know, to sit there and say, I mean, I'm not buying it. And it's because the lens that I'm seeing this through, I've been there. I've done all of this. I've investigated all these things. And yes, I took an oath when I became a police officer. And the reality is that oath carries a lot of weight. We have an unbelievable amount of authority, but with comes that responsibility and accountability. And the reality is, it's like we can't be villainizing and using this rhetoric where we're dehumanizing.
So Jeff,
people.
So were they training with Antifa with 4 weeks? They've trained 4,000 people in New York with hands-on defensive skills to go after. It's not peaceful protests. It's now an attack. They're talking about using gable grips and taking officers down, and how to take their weapons and use it against them. They're talking about go to people's houses that have flags. They're probably veterans. Go take all their ammunition and guns out of their house because they probably have guns. This is an insurrection. This is not debate. This is manufactured. They all show up with the same friggin' sign all over the country. They all show up with the same mantra. This is not organics. This is not grassroots. This is manipulated insurrection from people that stem all the way to the Communist Chinese Party. This stuff is being funded by the George Soroses and the Chinas and everything else to destroy us from within. This is not a typical type of protest. And until we get our heads wrapped around this, that we are under attack as a country, we're going to lose our nation. That we're at the precipice right this minute. This is not typical. We are now in atypical, asymmetrical warfare. This is not police 101. We have to start understanding that.
Let me throw something in there.
So I'm getting elevated. This is ridiculous.
One thing I noticed was that Minneapolis PD is not moving in to help out the feds at all. They're on their own. But that changed when the second shooting happened. They rolled in with a SWAT unit, not to prevent stuff from happening, but after the shooting happened, then they went in, they wanted to lock it down and start seizing evidence and get involved, by force into the federal investigation. I have no problem with them not allowing the state to be part of that.
Chip, I got to hold you on that. They weren't using force. It was a judge's order. They had a warrant. So
what are you talking about? I said they moved in and they seized they shut everything down the scene. They started collecting evidence.
And they had a warrant. They had a judge's warrant allowing them to do that. If you believe in the rule of law.
Yeah, but you're making it sound like I'm saying something I'm not. I'm saying that they're not doing anything to prevent this stuff from happening. They're being reactionary and they're trying to jam up the feds by doing it. I mean, you can judge shop, to have anyone sign an order to get you, but I'm just saying it's wrong that they're not putting manpower out there to control the crowd. We got 15 seconds, guys. Let me start the music. We're going back to radio. Here we go.
I got my referee whistle.
Use it, Chief. Use it.
All right, guys, and welcome back to Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip the Block, and I'm your host. We're joined by Dr. Joel Schultz, retired police chief, former LAPD commander, Lieutenant Jeff Winninger, and also CEO of Compliant Technologies, Jeff Nicholas. And Jeff's actually got, Nicholas has got a pretty impressive military background that I want to get into again, one day. But we're talking about what's going on in Minneapolis. And I know that we got some different viewpoints here that we're talking about, and we've got we're halfway through the show right now, so we got another half. I would like to cover at least the that first video, because it's a great opportunity that would have been a fantastic opportunity for the glove had the officer had that glove option in that scenario. But in talking about Minneapolis and what's going on over there, whoever wants to pick up the conversation, I know, Jeff, you were saying that you had issues with things going on both sides and that you didn't necessarily know the particulars on the shoot, that there were some things that you were seeing that you didn't like. I was just going to ask you if you'd be a little bit more specific about maybe giving an example on what you saw that you didn't like.
Well, just with my investigative background, I personally take issue with the compromising the investigation, and specifically the comments of what exactly occurred. I mean, it just didn't happen that way. He didn't brandish a firearm. He wasn't there to. I'm specifically telling you, he wasn't specifically there to create mass casualties of law enforcement. I mean, that's just not bared out by the evidence. And unless you have you haven't heard that.
No. Well, how do we know that? Do we really know what his motives were? We really don't know what was going on in his mind.
It doesn't matter. That's my point, Jeff. My point is you can't comment on that. Whether you have to let the investigation go. And I'm not saying you are. I'm saying the political leaders are. And that you can't do that. An investigation has got to transpire. And listen, if that is actually true, then allow the evidence to play out and support that. We need an unbiased, objective investigation. And it requires, probably in order to have the trust of the public, to have a multi-jurisdictional investigation or an independent investigation to ensure that everything is being flushed out as it needs to be. And because it's all about trust. The police are only as effective as the public is willing to accept the actions of the police. And at the end of the day, there's a huge breakdown, and that's why the IACP is getting involved. They see this breakdown, and it's not just black and white. It's not. I mean, I'm kind of middle of the road here. I'm saying, listen, let's figure this out. Let's work cooperatively. I agree with everything a local.
Let's say the guy's the guy's a good citizen. Let's say he's a good citizen. Would you, in common sense, things are going south. You're a concealed weapons carrier. You don't have your ID on you. Supposedly there's an article, his family said, don't go do anything stupid. Does it make sense that you would be in the middle of that tussle with a firearm in the middle of federal agents? Does it make common sense to even show up with that? Not because of the fact that you don't have the right. We hear all the time, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Doesn't that apply to the idiots on the other side wanting to walk into danger like that? That's ridiculous. Obviously, the guy had a reason for what he was doing. And I bet you when it comes down to it, let's wait till we find out about this guy's background, what his ethos was. The truth will come out. And the truth is going to come out about all these politicians and all these other people trying to rig the game against our federal law enforcement officers. This is I would call treason now. We are now in treason, and this is absurd. And by the way, the officers in Minneapolis, what kind of harebrained idea would it be for a mayor and a governor to say, "Oh, we just started this paid leave program. You can leave," in the middle of chaos? These people are orchestrating their own demise, and it's too stupid to be stupid. They're doing it on purpose. So the brunt of the blame belongs on the shoulders of those politicians, period, end of story. Because they can tell everybody to go home, let these guys do their job. They're federal law enforcement officers cleaning up our streets and crime.
But you did see that Walsh called out the National Guard, right?
Yes.
To hand out cocoa and pizza to the protesters. and they're wearing
he had said he
orange
was going to call
vests.
it the National Guard to stop ICE from doing their job. He has no idea what he's doing. He has no idea.
So here we are. We can't assume rationality. You know, the four intellectuals here who have experience and knowledge and are very well-spoken commentators on this thing. We're not going to convince anybody. We're not going to convince anybody making rational arguments. We have moved from a law enforcement operation intentions to really close to the precipice and maybe over to a combat military type footing. And so we need to approach it more like Israel and Gaza and Russia and Ukraine. And I think the big thing about diplomatic strategies and intervention like the ICP and the Minnesota Chiefs Association are both saying, let's do some negotiation. And Trump has probably overplayed his hand in a lot of areas, and Walsh and Fry have overplayed their hand in a lot of areas. And the only way for this to stop and, to keep people to saying, okay, no, I'm going to win, I'm going to win, I'm going to win, and keep ramping things up, is to go to an objective third party and start negotiating like we would to stop the hostilities.
No.
I
got to disagree
I think,
with you, Chief.
Well, so what's the alternative? We just escalate until the more superior force outdoes the Constitution.
I'm sorry, this inflames
You're
me.
appealing to rationality. When you negotiate
you have to,
between two opposing forces,
going down the pit of the
you give up some things that you don't want to give up.
Well, I know the feds are looking
and double down, and I think we
enforcing
need to call the
charges, but
National Guard out, perimeter, and let ICE do their
Well,
thing.
if Trump wants to do the Insurrection Act, and I think he'd probably be justified in doing so, and just tamp all this thing down, that would solve the immediate problem, probably. Here's my prediction. I predict that the next serious injury or fatality in Minneapolis is going to be within the protesters themselves. I think the next person injured or killed is going to be on that side, because they're establishing these no police zones like they did to Seattle and like they did post George Floyd.
That's a good point. They are in the process of doing that. Yeah.
Well, that's because the leadership in Seattle let them.
Yeah, I mean the bottom line is
right.
There's improvements that can be had on both sides of this argument. I'm right down the middle on this thing, and I'm just saying, listen, if we're not willing to sit down and listen to the other side and at least entertain.
Listen to the other side about what, Jeff? Protecting illegal aliens?
Okay, Jeff, listen. You have ICE, who is serving administrative warrants, forcing themselves into people's homes. We have a Fourth Amendment, Jeff.
Okay,
come on. If you're talking about the Constitution, you have to be lawful in your actions and everything that you do. And the reality is that envelope
being lawful.
Well, the envelope is being pushed, and the federal judges, time and time again, are ruling against what is going on. And the bottom line is, it's all about trust, and that's
all
not
these federal
how you do it.
Are Biden and Obama appointees that fight this administration.
They're not all. They're not all.
Most of them.
How about this? We'll let's agree to disagree on this. I do want to cover Portland real quick because Chief Schultz covered something on that. But we'll look. This is not going to go away. In fact, and I mean Leo Roundtable, we're going to be getting involved in this Minneapolis thing, and I don't necessarily mean Minneapolis, but the ICE thing and the stuff that's going on. There is a plan in place that'll be done within a week. I'll as I can talk about it more, I'll let you guys know. But it's going to be, I think it's going to be great. I think people are going to be shocked at what we're getting ready to do. So let's we'll be talking about this every day this week. But Dr. Schultz, you wrote an article and about Portland. Well, I don't know that it was necessarily about Portland because you wrote it in December, but it's like training. Are we kidding ourselves? Can you talk about the implications from that and what you meant by that? And it is at joelschultz.blogspot.com.
Yeah. We always review the instance and we say more training. But what do we really mean? And I've been involved as a subject matter expert with the post-curriculum committee in Colorado, and my doctorate is not in criminal justice, it's in education, and my dissertation was about training and community police training in particular. And we do so many things wrong. First of all, we seldom measure the effectiveness of training. Now, Travis Yates talks about getting this under 100 figure for police officer fatalities driving in car-related stuff, and they've actually reduced that through training. They can measure that. He started a training program in Oklahoma or in Tulsa. And they could measure that here's the number of officers injured and the number of accidents, and here's post-training with 60% reduction and those kind of things. Why do we do that in any other area? And I know I've only got about 10 seconds here, but if you look at officer fatalities, which is about the only reasonably known statistic, I'm not sure that training has really affected the decrease in officer fatalities. In terms of on-duty murder. So I'd be glad to talk about that some more.
All right, commercial break, guys. Here we go. All right, gentlemen, time to talk about GunLearn at gunlearn.com. And as law enforcement officers, we deal with guns every day, but it's what we don't know about them that gets us into trouble. Injuries, civil lawsuits, accidental discharges, misidentifications, lost prosecutions, and also disciplinary issues. But gunlearn.com, they have your back. You can quickly become extremely firearm knowledgeable by simply learning 14 training modules from the convenience of your home or your office, or by attending a live seminar at gunlearn.com. You can also become a safe, confident, and accurate certified firearm specialist like our very own Captain Brett Bartlett and also attorney Ken Afianco. Now, the course has had huge success in raising the bar of firearm knowledge, and GunLearn has been a trusted source since way back in 2011 by gun manufacturers, federal agencies, forensic organizations, and police departments nationwide. Now, here's the deal. The founder, Dan O'Kelly's got a great deal for you if you have your own agency. If you're a chief or sheriff, you could actually host a seminar for absolutely no cost. Amazing opportunity, and go to gunlearn.com to get more information. And we got 2 minutes, guys, before we come back to the radio portion of the show. And I think that we've got enough time. Do you want to wrap up anything about that article when we come back, Chief?
Yeah, I can throw some numbers out. It might be. I don't think that's it. I don't think that's going to be a popular stance that I've taken or perspective that I've taken because we have a lot of trainers.
I read it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a good article. I read it. I thought it was a good article because they're not tracking all the data that could be tracked.
He's just saying that, Chief. Don't listen to him. He didn't read it.
No, I read it.
Well, I'm going to say he's been disagreeing with everything today, so I don't know where to. No, I appreciate that, and I think and I'm not trying to plug your product, although I think it's wonderful. You've been able to generate some statistics about the effectiveness of your product and the effectiveness of your training. And we just have very, very little data about what training is really accomplishing anything. And in terms of, again, the only thing that we really have kept very good track of is how many officers have been murdered on duty on any given year. And we're celebrating because the 2025 statistics look relatively good. But I'm going to show when we get back on the air. I'm going to talk about some statistics that bring into question what have we really achieved with all of this emphasis and training over the last 40 years of my career.
Jeff Nicholas was on a show a few months back. We were talking about training, and I remember he had this quote, and it was a military quote, and it dealt with training. And it's about training begins when, the soldier is willing to accept the training or something like that. I can't remember, but it really resonated with me. Do you remember what that was, Jeff?
I don't
9
remember.
seconds, guys.
I don't remember that, brother. I'm sorry.
All right. Back to radio. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip the Block, and I'm your host. We're joined by Dr. Joel Schultz, retired police chief, former LAPD commander, Lieutenant Jeff Winninger, and also, Jeff's also got On Thin Ice at onthinicebook.com as well. And then Jeff Nicholas, he is the CEO for Compliant Technologies, and of course, they've got the glove. And hey, we were just talking about an article that Dr. Schultz wrote about training, and I'll get you to finalize that before we get into our video. But go ahead, Doctor.
All right, I'll try to finish up before you put me on mute. And I don't have the article in front of me because, frankly, I didn't think we'd get to it. But here's the gist of it. I've been in police work since 1976, if you count my MP school. And so I've seen a lot of history unfold, a lot of technology, a lot of discussion, a lot of politics. And so I went back to 1970 or 1975, and there were 22 officer deaths per 100,000. Now, first of all, we have to realize we don't even know how many cops there are. And these statistics are skewed by what was the total population, what was the number of cops. So 22, now we're down to the past few years have been about 6 per 100,000. That's wonderful. We got a lot fewer cops being murdered. And so the question is why? Well, we must have had better training and better funding and better selection. Well, if you look back in the 90s, we started seeing more and more use. Finally, it was only in the 90s where we saw more and more mandated use and agency provided ballistics protection. When I first started, we had one vest per car. It was in the trunk in a dusty bag, and you had to get out, put it on, and it wasn't personally adjusted. They were about this thick, like a good steak. So that undoubtedly has produced some saves. And then the other thing that has happened in the same time frame is that trauma care, up until current use of tourniquets and advanced training. And, when I first started in police work, paramedics, no. You know who did extrication at crash scenes in my rural world? Tow truck drivers. So we had the advance in trauma care, and we had the advance in ballistics protection, and we had advances in technology as well. I mean, vehicles are safer, for example. And so the other factor there is training, and I just don't see the percentage of explainable reduction in police officer murders being attributable to increased training. So where are we? What are we doing? We're still measuring in hours instead of competency. We're doing more and more scenario training. We're doing more training with technology, but are those scenarios, we do low frequency, high risk training more often. And so we haven't even decided or been able to measure what kind of training we need and how effective the training that we're currently doing is. So I think we're kind of in the desert wandering around trying to find the promised land, and I don't think we're there yet.
Well, good analogy. Well, Jeff, I know your mic's open. Jeff Nicholas, did you want to add something on that, or?
No, I just kind of curious with the political environment that we talked about through all major cities, officers avoiding conflict. In other words, backing off because they don't want to be that guy, because they don't think that their chain of command is going to help protect them. So they don't really get involved, and they don't do some of the things that we're doing. And maybe that's why we're seeing crime skyrocket. Is there a level between crime going up and officer death going down because they're not getting involved because they don't want to be that guy? I'm just kind of curious if there's a correlation. But I read I would read it. Well, if you're out there, I would read his article. I thought it was really good analysis of the fact that things aren't quite right in what we're tracking.
And that's really a great.
Well, I'm sorry. I was just going to point in that police deaths have gone down, but not necessarily because there's fewer assaults on officers. The chief brought up a good point about we've got triage kits, we've got tourniquets, we've got better ballistic vests, and we've got the capability to save cops' lives. I mean, could you imagine the death if this was like 20, 30 years ago, and we had those capabilities? We were limited. How many deaths we would have today? It would be ridiculous, right? So we're actually.
Well, that's where you'd also, if you're going to see deaths go down, is that because officers getting shot but their lives are saving? And that's what I think he's bringing up. We're not really tracking the officers getting hurt as well as we're tracking the officers that die. And if we correlated it, we would know, hey, they're still doing their job, they're getting shot, but we're saving them. Or are they just backing off and they're not getting shot and nobody's doing a thing?
And we don't measure success. We only measure failure. So it's really a data problem as much as anything. So I appreciate the opportunity to bring that up. Yeah, it's just Joel Schultz Blogspot. You can read it and you can make comments and tell me how I might possibly be wrong.
There you go. That's a great invitation. Hey, we could spend a show talking about that. Hey, rumble.com. This is better. This will be our last topic. Dash and body cam footage shows a Marina police officer being dragged before a fatal shooting. Yeah, we still got cops being dragged by cars, but I do believe this could have been prevented, and I'm talking about the glove. Marina, California. It's 4:50 in the afternoon. Marina police officer. I'm just going to say his last name because the first name's I can't get it. Dylan. He's patrolling in Marina Heights, and he sees a van without a front license plate. Now, there's a little bit of history. Now, Dylan, our officer, he recognizes the driver as a guy named Ronald Tinsley. He had arrested this guy back in June of 2025, so about half a year ago, for being a felon in possession of ammunition. And also, that case was filed going through the system. Officer Dillon turned to follow the van, and he also saw that it had an expired registration, on the tag before he did the traffic stop. Now, during the contact, he sees our bad guy on a cell phone, and he thought he saw the name of the woman that he had a injunction against, where he's not supposed to have contact with her. And the district attorney's office saying that he was not on the phone with her, but officer asked to see the phone because he thought he was violating a court order. The guy won't give it to him, and he says he's talking to his mother instead. And so then moving along, and the article really doesn't talk about, so I'm going to go to my show notes in a second, but it talks about that we have two other Marina police officers showing up, Brody Severs and Gabriel Rose, and they had heard that our officer Dillon had stopped Tinsley and decided to respond because they knew about this guy's violent history. So now we go to my notes here. There's no front license plate, and of course expired rear plate, and all that other history that I just went into. And so the suspect, the officer starts telling the guy, put his hands behind his back, behind his head and stuff. He's going to get the guy out of the car, and it looks like he's going to put him in handcuffs. So the suspect opens the driver's door at 4 minutes and 12 seconds, and 10 seconds later, he starts to drive away to avoid arrest. The officer verbalizes that the guy's got a gun because, remember, there's two other cops that are there, and the suspect ends up being shot around 4:52 and ends up dying. And the dash cam also shows there's a dash cam, from a vehicle of the whole incident going on at 11:23, and shots fired at 13:17. So, but it seems the glove, at least in my eyes, and after having experienced the glove, it would have been a unique opportunity. Jeff Nicholas.
Well, I think if you look at any of the things that we've talked about today, is it plausible, possible, or probable? And I believe it's very probable we could have helped in that situation. I think it's possible we could have helped in the shooting event because they had been wrestling with him for a little bit. So at the end of the day, what I would like is, and I love Jeff Wenninger. I love his service. I love who he is. We had a little bit of a heated debate here, and that's one of the reasons why this compliant technologies brought this product to bear, and that's to help de-escalate before these things get out of hand. Because I don't want that guy getting shot. I don't want anybody to be under the microscope. And at the end of the day, that's our company's philosophy. Stop that nonsense before it ever gets out of control. And anytime you go hands-on, and now because Jeff has felt it as well, so he's a believer.
I still haven't seen that video. I heard that he asked you to get the audible out of the video.
No, that's me. I always take the audible out because you'll never hear, because I say all kinds. I scream like a little girl, man. I'm telling you.
I got to tell you, without, obviously I'm not going to talk too much about it because we've got this contest thing going, but I will tell you that they gave me a safe word, and it was stop. It was just stop for me and Travis. And I couldn't remember the stupid word. I mean, when the glove was applied to me, I'm thinking, what's the word? I can't even think it. I never got it out. I couldn't think of it. It's just a stupid word like stop. It literally clears your brain out of it. Look at Wenninger laughing at me, but literally, wow. And I did things. I had to watch the video because I don't remember how I got on the ground, and your body, it's amazing. Your body protects itself. You roll or whatever. It's just amazing. And no injuries, no nothing. And now I know why. It's just your body is able to, you're able to roll, put a hand down to break your fall or whatever, whatever. So dude, I'm such a fan. And the nice thing is, I know I'm cutting to the wounded blue time because we're already over time, but it's good for the bad guy, and it's good for the cops and the agency, lowering liability and saving lives. I love it. Jeff Nicholas with Compliant Technology. Thanks so much for being on the show. Dr. Joel Schultz, former police chief, former LAPD commander Jeff Winninger. Thank you guys so much for making the show what it is. I want to mention the Wounded Blue at thewoundedblue.org. And guys, I also want to mention our sponsors, Gulls.com, CompliantTechnologies.com, AeroPrecisionUSA.com, Gunler.com, and Medicare.live, Safeguard Recruiting, 2 Bells, and FisherLandOutBass.com. We'll see you guys back tomorrow live, 12 noon Eastern. And we're going to keep it going for another minute and 10 seconds, guys, to keep the satellite company happy. But final words to the listening audience, gentlemen?
You know, the one thing I would say is I'd like to expand on what Jeff Nicholas said. You know, Chip, you've got unbelievable expertise as far as people that you have on your show as panelists, and everything that everybody has to say is unbelievably credible. And that's what I love about law enforcement. And I'm sure Jeff would share the same about the military. You know, we can go behind closed doors. We can even be on a nationally syndicated radio show and absolutely disagree and allow it to get heated. But, you know, when you walk away, you shake each other's hand, you give each other a hug, and you love each other. And that's really what it's all about.
We're not women,
you know, but that's
what I whistle out on that one.
You know, that's what I love. That's what I love about law enforcement. You know,
and by the way, Jeff, I bought your book, read it. I thought it was thought provoking. Didn't agree with everything, but as you said, it's worth discussion for sure.
Right. Yep. And that's what it's about.
Unless you have these conversations, because we're at a crux within our national environment. Unless we have these conversations, we're just going to not be a country anymore. And they can get heated, but that's okay. That's debate. That's about the First Amendment, right? That's everything we're about. And Chief, I understand what you're saying about rational thought, but someone's got to be the adult in the room, because we'll let these people go on and on until we're nothing. We'll just be. You know,
only when you wear the collar and you have the gavel are you the adult in the room, doctor.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, that's another topic we could talk about, and it's not really law enforcement, but the conflation of faith and religion that has been used as a ping pong volleyball tournament between the left and the right. Both of them are proclaiming, you know, the righteousness of Jesus and what would Jesus do, and it's just it's very stressful and way off the mark probably on both sides. But I did want to say about this van thing, you know, just passive resistance is resistance. So, you know, earlier intervention with reasonable but overwhelming force to stop that thing from escalating. I don't criticize the officer, you know, very much. I thought he did mostly a good job, other than reaching in the car, which we kind of instinctively do, and later we know, well, I shouldn't have done that. But I'd like to have seen that guy dragged out way earlier in that confrontation. And you know, it's true in some of these riot things too. Passive resistance is resistance. And we need to stop it from escalating. So I'm sorry, Chip. I'll play host for a minute and say, Chip the Block, what do you have to say?
No, you're right. Vehicle extractions are some of the most dangerous things that we have to do. You're not at an optimal position. You don't really know what resources the bad guy has available to him, you know, because your view is obstructed. But so I was watch this video. I was looking for opportunities of skin if I had the glove and an ability to be able to activate the glove. I was convinced that had this officer had the glove, that he would have been able to extract this guy safely, and there would have been no need for shooting. So I'm convinced that could have happened. I mean, you know, you would have, could have, should have, but I'm just saying, guys watching videos like this, or sheriffs or police chiefs or command staff, you've got to understand that there's so many opportunities, you know, that could be used. And then the other thing I was going to say is that, did you guys see that Trump wants to bring back the mental health facilities back into the country? You remember back, I know when I started my career in '83, we had them everywhere. And now we've got, you know, now we institutionalized, you know, our mental health illness, you know, people with mental health illnesses, and we don't treat them, we just put them in prison. So I'm kind of excited about that. I don't know how it's going to be rolled out or implemented. So I don't, you know, I don't know that it'll
Hey, Chip,
work, but
this would take a huge burden off of the sheriffs and the county jails, because the county jails have become the mental institutions. They're not trained. They're not equipped with the right nursing staff and the medical facilities, and they get put in SIG units, and they only go downhill from there.
You know, the newer guys don't know because they weren't around, in the early 80s or before, I think it was in the 90s, right around the 90s when these things just disappeared, but I tell you, our jobs changed drastically when these mental health facilities just started disappearing. And I mean, wow, Chief, we had a doctor on the show. He'd be able to help us out. Oh, Dr. Schultz.
Well, I think Trump wants to also, while opening more mental health facilities, include TDS in the DSM. So that's I can see it happening.
You see it happen. All right. Well, guys, another great show. Streamers, we're going to let you guys go. We've had a lot of great, California, what do we got here? New comment, California's mental health facilities, the sidewalk. Wow. I should have read something like to read, and I never know where they're going to go, but hey, guys over at Rumble and everything, MVS and all those guys, MVS was hooking my wife up with the Black Rifle mango while I was gone. So she got a case of it and then she's hiding from me. And hey, we got some, I'm expecting to make a Black Rifle announcement soon. I had a great meeting with them during SHOT Show and a lot of other people. So yeah, see, Chief Schultz is just clapping because he wants some of that coffee. But anyhow, more information coming up about that, guys. Hey, a great show. We'll see you guys back tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern. And I'm going to go and kill the bat.